Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
It's Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. Oh, and yeah, by the way, they handle Medicare products as well. Yeah. Important. And they'll do everything they can to save you money while making sure you're fully insured. Customer service means everything to them at Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. It is always a pleasure, without question, to talk to my good friend, the ever-knowledgeable Neal Coolong. Sir, welcome.
As always, it's my pleasure to be here. I hope you guys are having a great day.
We have talked in the past about mock drafts. Everybody has one. We haven't have a guy in the station does a mock draft, except the Toronto Argonauts are selecting, and it kind of bothers me. But that's a different story. So do you ever do one of those?
You know, I haven't written a mock draft in a long time. Not out of principle or anything like that, just more opportunity than anything else. Mock drafts, I think they get the wrong connotation in multiple ways. I'm sure this isn't what you asked, but indulge me for a second.
Oh, please.
Mock drafts are not supposed to be predictions. At least the top ones who write them, who are not necessarily the most popular ones, but the people who really put their time and effort into writing them up and evaluating them, it's the easiest tool to explain to people who the prospects are, what they're capable of, as well as what a team might do, the needs that they may have, and what they could be projected to be doing within this off-season plan. It doesn't mean this will happen or that will happen, because the reality is that the people, honestly, who throw darts at a board hit 2 out of 3, and that's excellent.
Right.
That's probably the best you're going to see.
Right.
At the same time, though, the reason that it shouldn't be viewed as a prediction of any type is because one deviation from what should be expected causes a ripple effect that will go down the entire draft. 2 or 3 of them in the top 10, which happens fairly often, will basically eliminate what anybody thought anybody was going to do after like pick 13. So it's really difficult to act as if it's a prediction. Instead, what I tell people to do, introduce people to who the players are, put them in another team, put them in this team's uniform, and talk about the fit. Why do you think they're an attractive prospect for this team? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to tell Joe Sweatsock who these guys are and why it is this player makes this team one step closer to a Super Bowl. It's not about predicting or guessing what a team is going to do. It's not even about what I would do if I was in charge, because the biggest fallacy of the draft always is that the constant is the draft itself. That's the dynamic. Mm-hmm. You have to look at every player as an individual moving part throughout this entire thing. And they can't be compared to last year. They can't be projected against next year. It's who's available right now and what a team needs. From there, it gets even more convoluted because every team has a different philosophy. The Philadelphia Eagles view a cornerback who they would take in the first round as having these things, whereas the Tennessee Titans don't view it that way. They're okay with this, not okay with that. That's a different type of prospect for them in as far as a first-round cornerback would go. So they're not looking at it the same way. They're also not drafting for immediate impact necessarily. There are some that can come in and give an immediate impact, but as you know, scouts collectively, if you were to get the notes of every scout who filed a report for an NFL team in the past year, you're not going to see teams having more than, at most, 23 or 24 guys that they would give a legitimate first-round grade to.
Right.
So
that's exactly right.
A third of your draft, or a quarter of your draft in the first round are guys that they don't think are first-round picks. That kind of throws everything off right there. Whereas the mock draft field, what they're doing is aligning the draft with the team. Teams are looking at what's available and aligning it to them. It's not the same thing. It's not the same art. So a mock draft is inherently different than what is actually going to happen. The best way to view it is educational. Look at the players, look at the fit, see what they might do, see what other options might entail, because what a mock draft does do well is anticipate the changes. I know for a fact at least one NFL team reviews mock drafts that are written, not to get insight, but more to calculate variability.
Right.
What could happen? And they kind of go through and say, this guy was picked anywhere from here to here, this guy here to here. We have him from here to here. There's a variation in there that we should account for when we're looking at this and kind of, mapping a strategy of what might happen. For the Steelers' sake, Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, all of those guys will get together and they will do hundreds of mock drafts. They will throw different scenarios in different places that might result in this happening or that happening. What will they do? I don't think it's a coincidence either. The Steelers, probably unlike any other team, I haven't mapped it out, but you might have noticed they don't take more than 30 seconds to make their pick in the first round.
Right, exactly.
They know exactly who they want when they are on the clock. Whether that's kind of, I think it might be kind of performative just to show, look, we're not going to mess around. We're not doing this intentionally. We're just going to get on with it. At the same time, though, it does lend some idea that teams are aware of what they're doing. They anticipated the situation they were in. This is what they were going to do. They're not going to allow themselves to talk themselves out of the decision that they've already made. So they take copious notes. They run through a lot of different simulations and scenarios that are based on a lot of different things. But they obviously are not reviewing, just throwing a name out there, Luke Easterling's mock draft and saying, well, Luke has this guy going here. Maybe we should think about that. It's more of what consensus is. It's more of realistic ideas of where guys may go based on, some people with some insight in the industry. That said, the whole thing is really meant just to inform fans who don't know. They're not obsessed bleeding over these things all day like some of us might be. They get a sense of who the player is, the names that they're familiar with, what about this guy, and fans will latch on to who they like for whatever reason they want to do that. And from there you get into evaluating who a team drafted, whether it was good or bad, and that's the part that gets more annoying to me than the mock drafts. It's the review of it. Well, I think this was a great draft. They hit on all these different needs. Everybody hits on needs in a draft. I mean, that's literally what it's for. It's not like that's an accident or a secret. And then you get into the annoying, kind of anti-stance of a mock draft, which is you don't know how these players are going to be in 3 years. Well, neither do the teams drafting them.
Right.
This whole thing is a projection. So we think we can build him into being this type of player within this offense. A great example of this, Zach Gentry. Do you remember him, the tight end the Steelers took in the 5th round a while back?
From Michigan.
Quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah, he's transitioning over to a tight end. You're going to tell me you have any sense of who that player truly is going to be?
Nope.
That's a guess. That's a project. And he turned out to be okay. He did all right as a reasonable kind of third tight end, jumbo package blocking kind of guy. He did pretty well. I don't think that the ceiling was all that high on him as a pass catcher, but he can be a vital component to a situational team that wants to win short yardage. And that's what the Steelers used him for. I think he went to the Bengals after that and did fairly well while he was there.
Yeah.
They're going to draft guys like that at some point. Now, Steelers fans went nuts because tight end, you better be Rob Gronkowski or we're not going to be happy with him. All right, well, in the 5th round, he's not going to be Rob Gronkowski. I'll just, cut the drama now. But they have a functional purpose, and they have a reason why they're drafting him. And at that point, it's kind of you throw projections out the window. It's not really about what you view him as, where he is today. It's where he's going to be in 3 years. That's what they're betting on. And that's why a team has coaches. They're going to coach him up. It's a different style of coaching than college. They're going to get a lot more out of the player when they have more time to spend with them. And the player is, literally, I guess this kind of changes a little bit nowadays, but he's literally a professional. This is his job. He's supposed to be doing all of these things. It's up to him to get better at these things. When they have that kind of time to commit and focus solely on what they're doing, theoretically they can, fall in the projection the team has for them. But very, very few of them are being drafted simply because what they can do today. And half the first round probably isn't even that. They're guys that need to develop, that need to build. They have traits that they really want. So, long story short, no, I don't do mock drafts. I haven't in a while, but I'm very much engaged with many people who do. And I enjoy it. I really like to find out who the names are, who the people are, and who's out there, and where somebody might go. Then on draft night, this happens or that happens, and it's a surprise. But it's like, okay, yeah, I could see why they would do that. And then you have Michael Penix getting drafted by the Falcons, which might be the biggest shock in 30 years of the draft. And it turned out to be, looks like a pretty decent move if you're okay burning $40 million on Kirk Cousins. Maybe we can get past that part. But you get an appreciation, in a sense, for the work that goes into it, why teams do what they do, because usually it maps out fairly accurately over a 3-year period.
Well, the part I always love is when two things. When they grade the draft, your team got a C, yours got an A-. And I sit back and go, how the heck do you know? I have no idea.
That's exactly it. You're giving a grade, but why? I took a math test and I got a C. I know that's because I got 74 out of 100. What is it that earned this team their C? They're 74 out of 100. It's based on your projection of the player. It's based on what you think the team wants philosophically out of a player. You can't possibly know that. So your grade is not based in the reality piece of it. Now, again, neither is the mock draft, but the mock draft isn't a prediction. You are predicting this as a grade. You're saying that this is average, which, let's be honest, too. C is usually, I don't like this, but I don't want to look like a jerk and give them a D, which is the same thing as a C plus is, this is okay, but I don't really know these people very well, so I'm going to give them a C plus because it's not a great franchise. I'll give them a B minus if it is a great franchise and I am familiar with the player. An A plus is every player that I absolutely love. A D or an F is the most controversial. I couldn't possibly defend this, so I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to rip on them like everybody else, like the Falcons last year. So to me, it's the grading part, and full disclosure, we'll do grades. But
sure. Right.
I try to have people keep it based in reality. Is this a player who has the kind of traits that you often see among players on this team, with this coaching staff, with this general manager? Are they really that bad? Is it really that big of a reach? Consensus might say that this is a big reach. Can we justify why it is outside of everybody else says this? What's the science behind it? Give a real opinion, not just a knee-jerk reaction to it. If you can do that, then I think your work will show what it really is. But at the same time, I think you kind of end up in the same range of A to C plus for everybody. and then you cut off half of it, and everything below that tends to be more of a, I don't understand why they did this, which doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I remember the Buffalo Bills got ripped for trading up quite a bit to go get Josh Allen after they had traded away Patrick Mahomes the year before.
Right.
So you don't know what's going to happen, and while that's far less fun as far as the content goes, there's a middle ground that you can have in there that I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's not your standard letter grade. It should kind of be defined. I think if you can describe what a team was thought to do, what it kind of looks like they're trying to do, how well that meshes together, I think that's a positive grade. If you're not sure why it is that they did what they did, it seemed like they reached on a bunch of things. They lost draft capital and didn't gain much back for it. That's probably, a below passing grade. Again, though, it's, that's not very much fun. Nobody wants to go back to school. Nobody wants to determine the grades. But to me, you've got to put some sense of reality into it.
Well, the reality is, in the point you made earlier, there are really only probably 15 actual first-round picks in the draft. Now, there's 32 that will get first-round money. But like 14 or 15 guys would be a first-round pick in any year. That to me is what it is. And I know Penn State's got two of them. It's Abdul Carter and Tyler Warren. They'd be first-round picks in any year. They gather all this information. And I went to Penn State's pro day. So I watched them run 40s and do cones and lift and things like that. I know it depends, I'm sure, on the team, but what kind of difference does that make in your mind in the end? Isn't it about how you play?
Honestly, for me, and I've heard this said a couple times, I'll colloquially call it the Vontaze Burfict effect. I think a large part of having those events is to make them train for them, to make them be in shape for them, to make them display their dedication to it. Vontaze Burfict, famously, I don't think he worked out at all before his pro day, and he was miserable. He had some of the worst numbers ever. He was a first-round talent who went undrafted because of it. Mm-hmm. And while obviously that's not normal, and there will be guys that'll fall, maybe they were a mid-round projection, but something pushed them into undrafted free agency territory, which is valuable for a team, I might add. They don't mind, going after the guys they didn't use a draft pick on. But it's more, how dedicated is this guy? How badly does he want it? Because let's be honest, if in the regular world we tell you to show up at 8 a.m. for an interview, you show up at 8:20, it doesn't look very good.
No, looks bad.
I don't think it's asking a whole lot for an athlete to prove that he's kept himself in shape. He is dedicated to this. He has put his time into it because they're going to pay him millions of dollars. In some cases, I guess in others, maybe a little less than that. But the idea is you need to show that you want to be here. A friend of mine, I won't say the name, from back in college, a really good Division III player. And he was the type who grew quite a bit in college, somehow or other. Not performance-enhancing drugs, but he was 6 foot when he went to school, and he walked out of there at 6'3", and he added 30 pounds. His senior year tape, he was an All-American player, high-level player. He got a cup of coffee invite with the Vikings on rookie minicamp. At some point, because he kind of just thought things were done, he didn't really want to do it anymore. He wasn't all that into it, but Vikings give him a call. He wants to go give it a shot at least. He wasn't in shape, and the first thing Mike Tice had them do was run. And they ran a couple sprints back and forth. He was kind of getting back late, and then at one point he was breathing heavy, he had his hand on his head, and he was like the only guy that was doing that. And Mike Tice came up to him and said, "Hey, buddy, you in shape?" And he said, "Coach, you know what, not really." "Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming. You can keep the gear." Cut him on the spot. Yeah. And that's not Mike Tice being a jerk. It's more like this guy's like, I'm not going to make this team. I'm not into it nearly as much as what I'm going to need to do. I'd like to stop running and just go home now. That's fine. Right. So it's the idea is you need to show a team that you are invested in what you're doing. And I don't think that's unreasonable. At the same time, though, I think the pomp and circumstance that comes with it is not the fault of the team so much as the league. The league wants to put on a spectacle. It wants to build the hype. they're still begging people to watch the combine, which nobody does, but they don't care. They're going to keep pumping it out. I think the only reason the NFL Network exists is to broadcast games first and foremost, and to try to make the combine an actual tentpole event the same way that they do with the draft. They had success doing it with the draft. They failed miserably with the combine because the combine isn't all that interesting. And it's because of the same questions that you're asking. I think they're answered fairly quickly, and as we've talked about a bunch of times, it's access to the players, and it's a medical check. They get to see where the player is, what they'll be needed. That's stuff that will actually, raise and lower the draft stock of a player. This guy looks like a second-round talent, but he's still injured. He's not going to be in shape in time for camp. We're not going to use a premium pick on him if we're basically losing the informative part of his first year with us. And we only get him for 3 more years after that. I'd rather spend less money on him. That's the kind of thing they look for. But if Abdul Carter showed up 40 pounds overweight and ran a 4.9, he's probably not being talked about as the second pick of this draft. Right. And really should be the first, in my opinion. It's him showing up, built like a Greek god, cut like a steak, and running the way that you see on film that he can run. He's put the time in. He's dedicated to this. He wants to do it. Yeah, that's my guy. And I'm sadly, I'm sure the Browns will think long and hard about passing on him at 2. Kind of hope that happens because I don't want to see another guy like Myles Garrett on the Browns. But Abdul Carter is going to be a great player, and he's put the time to sell his physical abilities beyond last season. Now this is who he is now. This is what he'll be as a pro. This is what you're setting your evaluation on.
My friend, that was a very interesting segment. I mean, really interesting. Thanks, as always. Next week, it's Green Bay week, and we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
The great Neal Coolong. And this half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
At Sunbury Motors, we're not just from America, we're for America. That's why we're proud to announce our employee pricing program with incredible savings on 255 new eligible Fords. Right now, save up to $6,797 on 25 2025 Ford Explorers, starting at under $40,000. Save up to $2,665 on 16 2025 Ford Mavericks, starting just under $28,000. And for those who need strength and power, save up to $10,541 on 60 2025 Ford F-150s, starting at under $48,000. These are more than vehicles. They represent American craftsmanship, strength, and pride. At Sunbury Motors, we're proud to be American-made, American-owned, and dedicated to helping you drive through 2025 with confidence. Sunbury Motors, American-made, American-owned, and coming alive in 2025.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Thinking about a new Hyundai? Here's the scoop. You're in the sweet spot with Sunbury Motors Hyundai. They have over 100 new Hyundais available that will not be affected by any increased pricing. In fact, hurry in now and save as much as $6,400 or 2.99% APR for 60 months on 2024 Hyundai Santa Cruz models. They have plenty. SMC has 40 2025 Hyundai Tucsons available starting under $30,000 with savings up to $3,700 or 3.99% APR for 72 months. There's also 14 2024 Hyundai Elantras in stock starting at under $24,000. No matter what you may hear, if you want to have a fun day, you have to drive a Hyundai. All new Hyundais come with Hyundai Assurance and America's best warranty, 10 years, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. See for yourself why we say together we can be alive in 2025 at Sunbury Motors Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury.